And there we are, I think.
Yeah, I think, too, yeah. Not bad for a
Friday
night.
Oh, yeah, we're not frozen. Okay, good. Joe Cioffi, FiOS 1 News Long Island and FiOS 1 News New Jersey.
Oh, Joe Rayo.
Right.
FiOS 1 News, Lower Hudson Valley.
And it's a Friday night. It's been a week.
It gets much colder. I am going to start freezing or get frozen here.
Well, I have to tell you, this morning when I went outside, I can't remember. I think probably you have to go back to last May to remember a day where the air was this clean.
Yeah,
it was just felt great. It's
a deep
absolutely
shade of
great.
Blue, rich shade of blue. The air has been cleansed, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually got worried this morning, Joe. I looked out the window around 7 a.m. and hardly saw any of my leaves on the trees outside, barely fluttering. I said, oh, my goodness.
Yeah, the wind kicked in right after that.
That's right after that. And, in fact, so much so that parts of the Hudson Valley and Long Island had a wind advisory till noontime, so the winds did rev up pretty good.
They had gusts of 70 and 80 miles an hour down in parts of Chesapeake Bay and right along the Delmarva coastline down to the Virginia Capes, the southern end of Michael, when it made that transition over into an extratropical or non-tropical storm, intensified as it moved out to the northeast. The rainfall amounts on Long Island were on the order of 2 to 3 inches, especially out my way.
Yep.
So that was good. And now we're here at the weekend, and from what I saw and in the long range, and I guess you'll agree with this, that humidity pattern ain't coming back.
No. It was
certainly not in the next 2.5 weeks.
You know, so stupid. I mean, up until yesterday, I had to check to see in the forecasts the dew point temperatures. And by this time of the year, I'm usually done with that. But seeing still dew points way up in the 60s, even low 70s. But as you just mentioned, that's all over with. Maybe it's all over with now for the balance of the year.
It may very well be. I mean, I think there could be the odd day where temperatures could warm up ahead of a cold front, but even there, we're talking about warming up within reason, and not necessarily going up to the other end of the extreme, because the ridge in the east is dead, and it ain't coming back. Now, we've got tomorrow approaching, and we do have a little small issue tomorrow morning.
I'm calling it a wrinkle in the upper atmosphere, or maybe you might want to call it a reinforcing shot of the weather, the cooler air that has begun moving in as it moves across our area toward daybreak tomorrow. A little bit of shower or light rain activity, which may persist to about late morning or midday, and then we're not talking about a whole heck of a lot. A couple of tenths of an inch maybe, and then by tomorrow afternoon we should begin to get into a clearing trend. It looks like right now it'll be a slow clearing trend. I wish I could say that we're going to have one of those rapid, sharp clearing lines move through, and the second half of the day tomorrow will be brilliantly clear and sunny, but I quite frankly think tomorrow during the afternoon will be a slow, I don't want to say painful, but a gradual improvement. Underscore that word, gradual, tomorrow. If you really want a nice day, you'll probably have to wait until Sunday, but it'll be a perfect day to go apple picking or drive north and west and see some of the fall foliage change. But of the 2 weekend days, most definitely, I think Sunday's going to be the better of the two.
Right, and this thing will come through and then done. The weather fronts are going to be coming through every couple of days.
Right.
So that at least means that there will be shots of cooler air behind each front. Our air is coming down from Canada, which is a good thing. And if you like cool autumn weather, that is. There are some people that actually like that soup that we were in. I don't know how they do it, but why don't we talk some winter weather tonight? Because actually we do have some, and I'm going to bring up the Weather Service's watches and warnings profile that you can find on weather.gov. And for the first time since back last spring, some winter storm watches popping up in northeastern New Mexico and southern Colorado, and winter weather advisories for parts of north central Colorado and then on up into Wyoming. In fact, Denver is under a winter weather advisory.
Well, Denver's got crazy weather. They can be, well, it's not like what we've seen.
Well, it will be. It's going to be 60 tomorrow and then snow on Sunday and in the 20s.
Right. That's something that I think if you live in Denver, you're fairly well accustomed to. You're not accustomed to it so much here, but in Denver they get these wild swings sometimes, and that's the story. In fact, I was thinking about when my sister at one time was working, Joe, for the Children's Television Workshop, the same people who put Sesame Street out. Maybe they still do it today. I know they're on HBO now, so maybe something different. But many, many years ago, she was trying to get a job there, so they had her write a whimsical type of story where one of the some of the Muppets encounter a bright sunny day, and all of it, like Kermit the Frog or Grover, wearing sunglasses, and all of a sudden the next day it's cold and snowy, and the person who she was trying the job out for said, "That's absolutely ridiculous. That doesn't happen." Obviously somebody who lived in New York all his life or whatever.
Right.
I pointed out to her there have been several occasions. Once in Childress, Texas, they had a situation where they had like 90-degree temperatures one day, and the very next day they had what's called a Texas Norther. One of these blue norther comes straight out of central Canada, and it went from 90 one day to like 11 degrees with snow.
Well, so, hey, we had that blizzard a couple of years ago where we had record highs in the 70s in February, and then it was down to 20 the next day with a foot of snow on the ground.
So it does happen. It does happen.
And the snow amounts aren't anything especially big. I mean, 1 to 6 inches spread out here from Montana down into northern New Mexico. But the point is that this is, and there's already been some snow, by the way, up in parts of the Dakotas and into northern Minnesota. Yeah. Right. So the point is that we're seeing it, and this is probably the beginning of a stretch where we're going to start seeing these things appear across the country, and a reminder of which way this is all going with respect to the seasons, anyway.
Right.
And as we look at the GFS, Joe, this is not any kind of storm that's going on down there. It's basically another big high with a shot of cool air, and they get some upslope and the east wind, and it just grinds out the snow. Meanwhile, we've got this disturbance that comes through tomorrow morning. And by the way, I noticed that a couple of models actually do have a little bit of snow and sleet, probably in the higher elevations in parts of northern PA, southern New York, in and around Binghamton, the western part of the Catskills, maybe for about five minutes. This air mass that's coming through, that's over us now, is pretty cool. Then we've got a reinforcing shot for Sunday. Another cold front comes through on Monday with maybe a couple of showers with that. And then more chilly air for Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday. Even a little bit of lake effect action there, and some snow up in northern New England perhaps on Wednesday.
I really, we have here at Files One about 3:15 every afternoon an editorial meeting, and Joe and I kick off each meeting with a look at the forecast. Today Joe was busy doing something back in the Weather Center, so I did the meeting and ran through very quickly what we're expecting this weekend and through much of next week. And then I really got some eyebrows raised when I said next weekend, maybe some snow. That immediately got everybody's attention, and they thought I was kidding. But really, and I know it's a week out or more than a week out, but they are plunging the ribbon of baroclinicity, the 540 line, which usually is the rain-snow line when we are into winter forecasting, amazingly through our area behind a passing cold front.
And it's right here. I'm showing it here. So
you can see
this is the front for this comes through next Saturday, and then on Sunday you get this cold push with some lake effect rain and snow showers.
So it's not out of the question.
No, who knows? Look,
I'm not talking any big snowstorm.
We're just talking maybe about if there's a snow shower somewhere up north and west of the coast. It could happen.
I remember in 2015, and the only reason I remember this is because my New York Mets were battling in the playoffs, and they made it all the way to the World Series that year. They were playing the Chicago Cubs in the League Championship Series, and I don't remember the exact date. It was a Sunday. They were playing a game at Citi Field, frigidly cold, much better for the Giants and the Jets as opposed to a Met baseball game. But there was a burst of snow shower activity, and for about 20 minutes at my house, it was coming down S+. And this is October now, so it can happen. And of course,
can happen.
Need I remind anybody who lives up my way or in the Hudson Valley of what happened in 2011 when we had the pre-Halloween snowstorm, 14 inches of heavy wet snow in parts of the Hudson Valley. This is my part of the Hudson Valley in October, late October.
You still haven't gotten your power back from that.
Yeah.
By the way, when you look at the pattern for the longer haul, and this is pretty consistent on most of the models, it's basically cold front after cold front coming through with these shots of cold air. So the whole upper air has just, it's amazing how, I remember last November we just sort of flipped a switch and went from being so warm into the middle part of November and into that frigid blast that was last December. But again, it's like a switch has been flipped, and Michael was a bit of a catalyst in all this. And now we've lost the ridge in the east, and it's trough in the east, and it just rotates around and around and around. And a big ridge pops up in the west late in the period too, which is kind of interesting. I'll say this much: if we hold this pattern into the month of November, I'm not big on the cheap thrill appearances that occur in October, except in those really odd situations. But if we hold this kind of upper air pattern into the month of November and December, it wouldn't shock me at all to start, to see some early snows, perhaps even here at some point. It's just a sort of a speculative guess on my part, but if not here, certainly in parts of the Northeast and the Great Lakes. If you're going to get something early, this sort of look is what you would have to see in order to get it.
Well, it would be very unusual if we had December, January, February, March all near or below normal and had a truly full winter pattern through all of the months. Usually what happens,
there's always a break somewhere.
Right. So if we do get into this cold weather pattern now and it spills over into November, then you just know that sometime either in December or maybe January, we're going to have those couple or few weeks of unseasonable mild weather. 13-14
was probably the one winter that sticks in my mind, where it was basically from non-stop, from late November to March and maybe the 95-96 winter, except for the 2 weeks in late January. That was the minor interruption there.
Right.
But 13-14 was as I recall it, was very. It started early, ended late, and there was not much of a break of any at all in between, except the odd day here and the odd day there.
And then we had those two, going back to when we were starting, Joe, when we were just tykes, tiny tykes.
Mm-hmm.
The winter of 76-77 and the winter of 77-78. Those were two.
Yeah, but 76-77 broke at the beginning of February, and then there wasn't very much after that.
Really?
As I remember it, right around the first, after the first week of February, it just kind of fizzled,
kind of mellowed.
Yeah, and 77-78. Yeah, that probably got, especially from mid-January to early March. That was a pretty consistent stretch.
And then we had that winter. It was late November of 89. In fact, it snowed. We had a snowstorm in 89 on Thanksgiving Day, and that cold and snow was ushered in by a tornado outbreak in upstate New York, which sadly led to the death of a number of school children because of the wall of a school collapsed on top of them during the it was either a microburst or a tornado outbreak. But right after that, we went into a spell between late November through the month of December of bitter cold. I think the average temperature at Central Park in December of 89 was something like 24, 25 degrees. I mean, way below normal. And you say to yourself, oh my goodness, this winter is going to be brutal if this is the way it's kicking off. And right after New Year's Day, the rest of the winter, January, February, March, were like near or above normal.
Right.
We had more rain than snow, and it really, I guess, broke the hearts of a lot of snow lovers out there, or winter weather lovers. It seemed like we had the entire winter rolled up into one big ball, and it was all in the month of December.
Right. So. Steve LaPointe pointing out, he says that 14 wasn't much snow. I would beg to differ on that, being that Long Island is the new Buffalo. 13-14 was quite a snow winter for Long Island, at least, anyway.
Which was the year that we had? I used to remember these things off the top of my head.
As did I.
December, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day was like 70 degrees here, It happened, what, about 5, 6 years ago? Remember
Well,
that?
that was the El Nino year. That was 15, 16.
Was it?
Yeah, that was December of 15.
Really?
Yeah, that was when we had temperatures in the 70s.
Right.
Yes.
And that was the year, again, that we had cold and snow in October, and all of a sudden it just warmed
Right.
up.
It seems like when we have these big El Ninos going that we get these when we have a big El Nino.
Right.
At least snow in New York City anyway. But I get, I don't know if that's always been the case. It happens that on a couple of instances where that happened, they were El Nino years.
These purported long-range forecasters who seem to have the handle, so they say, on weather for the upcoming winter season, they say that a weak El Nino year is prime time for a big snow or cold weather event here in New York. So
Scott Briller is trying to keep us honest on Ask Us Anything Friday, so he wants to know which our favorite all-time TV series.
Our favorite all-time TV series.
Well, I have I don't have just one. Okay, I'm a television history buff. So I have a number of different shows that are among my favorites, if only because of the fact that, from a historical basis, I Love Lucy probably goes #1 on that because of the historical significance of the show and how it came about and the live audience and the 3-camera technique and all of that. But it's certainly up there. We both like The Honeymooners. I don't think there'll be any arguments. But there are some other shows that, for example, I'm a huge Perry Mason fan.
Yes.
I could sit there and watch Perry Mason all day long.
I didn't become a Perry Mason fan until very, very late in life, and now that it's on
Wait a minute. Are you testifying, Mr. Rayo, that you have not been a Perry Mason fan until late? Isn't it true, Mr. Rayo, that you were seen watching Perry Mason?
Your Honor, I want to just say to Mr. Cioffi.
I object. You object. So I guess those, you'd put those. There's some others that right now are escaping my very feeble Friday evening, very tired mind.
I was always a big Honeymooner fan. In fact, my best man at my wedding, Sam Storch, he brought his 2 kids up. They watched when they were like 2 years old. They used to watch the Honeymooners together. And the funniest story that Sam ever told me was that when they took the kids to a restaurant for the very first time, and the waiter came over and put the food on the plate for each of them, one of the youngest sons looked at the waiter and said, "Hey, this is dog food."
Oh God. Robert Matthew Policasto, it's too early for winter. And you know better because I don't do long-range forecasts. I'm just kind of making general observations from what I can see. Yeah, there are a lot of people I noticed on the a lot of chatter in the little weather rooms that are around in social media, that they've all been chatting about the Euro monthlies. For the last 4 runs of the Euro monthlies, they're basically burying the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic states from November through February. So
it's a good thing I got a new snowblower last winter.
Well, yes.
And thank you to whoever said happy birthday to my mom, who turned 8
yes.
today.
Weatherwolves, as he's up near one of my favorite 8 racetracks, which is Arlington. In Chicago. If the pattern continues, do you think we'll see a winter like last winter? I'm really trying to remember very hard what last winter was like, at least for the Great Lakes. I'm even having a tough time remembering what it was like here.
My supposition is that since it turned very cold here, that they probably saw the cold.
Well, they saw the cold in the Great Lakes. Yeah, right. The pattern that we have now, if that holds into November, December, is going to be definitely cold for you. I mean, you already had your first frosts and freezes in and around the Chicago area, so the pattern is setting up well for colder air for the Great Lakes as well, at least right now. Whether it holds later on or not remains to be seen. Raymond O'Sullivan said we had snow after Sandy. But that was a special case, though, because of the big upper low that was around.
That snowstorm hit on the night, it was election night, and it was starting to snow like right after midnight on election night, and we had like, depending on where you were, anywhere from like 3 to 5 or 3 to 6 inches of snow the next day. Ridiculous. And this came like the week after Sandy, so that was a...
Kevin Walsh, you're pointing out something that I've been saying for a while. You look at the record book, we've been in a golden age since 2000 for New York City. It's basically the last 18 years, and particularly for Long Island. It's been an absolute bonanza with snow amounts in some cases double what everybody else. Some areas would get slightly above normal. Long Island would get double the normal, and that's been the case, especially for Suffolk County. And I'm enjoying it because that's where I live.
I remember growing up in the 60s. We had some big snow years. 66, 67, for example. Of course, 69, the year of the Lindsay blizzard or the Lindsay snowstorm. But then during the 70s and 80s, even though we had those big years in 77 and 78, basically the 70s and on into the 80s, they were pretty flat in terms of snow amounts or snowfall. Certainly, we never really saw very much in December. Now, all of a sudden, in recent years, we've had some really big storms in December. So
well, it won't be long before another 6 or 7 weeks, and we'll be singing Jingle Bells. So, but a little bit sooner than that, we've got the top of the hour, so we got to go. Just a quick reminder, and I'll be putting some posts up about this over the weekend on my Patreon platform as well as elsewhere. I have a library talk coming up next Wednesday for those of you in New Jersey, in northern New Jersey. I will be at the Springfield Library in Springfield, New Jersey on Wednesday, October 17th at 7 o'clock. So hold your questions until then and come out to the library and hang around for an hour and a half, and we'll probably spill over into the parking lot after that. So that's next Wednesday, October 17th at 7 o'clock at the Springfield Library in Springfield, New Jersey. And
you're going to televise that again, or like?
I will live stream that. Yes,
right.
I will.
Live stream. I got to get the lingo.
Yes, please get the lingo. But I will live stream, and
because I had a lot of fun watching your talk from Bayport Blue Point the other day. I mean, I was here. But I did have a chance to watch it, and it was very informative. And you had a hurricane, my goodness! So that took up much of the talk on.
Oh yeah, it was great because that was what the subject matter was. So to actually have a hurricane in play when I'm doing the library presentation makes it actually a little easier for me because I could just do. Look at current weather. So, but I don't think we're going to have that next week. But we can go back and review what happened with Michael because that is going to be historical. It is a historical storm. And by the way, I did see a tweet. I don't remember who it was from, but it was from someone that was relatively reputable. That judging from where the landfall was near Tyndall Air Force Base there. And surveying some of the damage, that don't be shocked if this winds up being in post-analysis moved up. I think they said the pressure might have been 918 at landfall with 160-mile-an-hour winds.
Wow.
So look, at the end of the day, it was right on the cusp either way. In my view, it was probably there, but I'm not a professional when it comes to assessing.
And you want to know something?
Wind damage just by looking at it.
After 40 years, it's amazing. If it were 40 years ago, I would have been saying something like, "Boy, why couldn't we see something like that up here or close to up here?"
And
now, 40 years later, I was very happy to be sitting in the bleachers, way off on the sidelines, and watching as all of this. Not happy of the destruction that took place, or the loss of life or whatever, but happy that system never came within really close to we could live with the 2 inches of rain on Long Island and the gusty winds we had for a while earlier today. But I'm happy that we were able to stay away from. My God, that was an amazingly strong storm.
Yeah, a repeat. If we hopefully it'll never happen. But at some point it probably will. Something akin to the 38 hurricane somewhere up the mid-Atlantic and Northeast. But look, hopefully we're done for this year, and we're going to start focusing attention more and more on the coming rest of the fall and the winter season.
Right.
We got to go. FiOS 1 News, Long Island and New Jersey for me.
FiOS 1 Lower Hudson Valley for me. And Joe, you make it a good weekend.
You too. We'll see you on Monday.
Right.